All right. Hey, good afternoon or good morning still. It's just still barely morning here a little bit. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're doing another kind of a different midday product coffee live stream today. We've been talking with some of the folks that we work with and have had some really interesting conversations that don't necessarily fit into our weekly product coffee meetups. So we had a great response when we did this live stream a couple of weeks ago with Brooke at Genuine Parts. So we decided to do it again. There are some other parts of Genuine Parts Company that we wanted to highlight and talk about what they're doing and go a little bit deeper based on some of the questions that we got. We wanted to go a little bit deeper on the actual product management practice and what they're doing over at Genuine Parts. And we're gonna get into that here in just a minute. I do want to remind everyone that we do have our regular product coffee weekly meetup is tomorrow. We got a great session. We're going to do a panel discussion on outcome-driven product strategy. We've got John Harmer, who is lead product manager at Google Cloud, Keely Funkhauser from Randall Riley, and our good friend John Mansour, president of Product Management University, all have kind of a different perspective on how they lean into and think about outcomes to drive product strategy and really lead that conversation. One of the big pieces of feedback I get on a regular basis is that a lot of us still get stuck in these feature-driven conversations on a day in and day out basis. And in order to shift that conversation, you have to do it pretty intentionally. You have to work within your organization to change that conversation so that you can move to a more outcome-driven strategy. And we're trying to equip you at Product Coffee to lead those conversations and take on a greater leadership role in your own organization to drive success. So we'll be doing that tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. You can head over to productcoffee.com/events to register for that event right now. And we'd love to have you join us tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. That being said, let's get on into what we're here for today. We got a couple of guests here from Genuine Parts Company. I want to first welcome Kedar, who is joining us. Kedar is Senior Director of Product Management and Technology at Genuine Parts. So why don't you say hello, Kedar, and tell folks a little bit more about what you're working on these days.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thanks, Jason, for the brief introduction.
You're on mute.
Oh, can you all hear me? Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, we're good.
So first of all, thanks, Jason, for inviting me to this chat. It's wonderful to be able to participate in this. So like Jason said, I'm part of the Genuine Parts Company. Specifically at Genuine Parts Company, I have responsibility within the supply chain technology team. I have ownership for a couple of engineering teams. And then I also have ownership for establishing and running the product management group at GPC. So today we'll get into a little bit about what we are doing, how we are doing it, and so on. Just a brief background for myself. I've been with GPC for a little over a year now, and prior to that, worked in the retail industry in supply chain for about 18 years. So, and before that, did some consulting. So my road has been from consulting to engineering, and now into product management.
Awesome. And we also have one of your colleagues from Genuine Parts and longtime friend of Product Camp. We have Colette Blanton. So let's bring Colette on the screen here and say hello, Colette.
Hello, Jason, and hello, everybody. Thanks, Jason. This is you finally got me on the camera with Product Coffee.
I think we had to do a panel last year, didn't we?
Maybe. Actually, you might be right. It's vague. But so I also am at a Genuine Parts Company. I'm a senior product lead for our Napa stores. So that covers our point of sale as well as our back office for both our store managers as well as our business owners.
Very good. We're glad to have you both here. And, when I spoke with Brooke a couple of weeks ago, we started touching on some of the fundamental differences in how Genuine Parts thinks about customers and how many different kinds of customers you have internally,
Right.
and ranging from independent store owners to corporate store managers and employees, as well as a whole host of other types of stakeholders and customers, including internal employees right there at the headquarters here in Marietta. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to dig in a little bit more deeply into the supply chain side of things and talk about what you're doing there, Kedar, and tell us a little bit about some of the initiatives that are going on with the supply chain products, and how product management is being brought into this traditionally IT kind of a conceptual space.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I dive deeper into the supply chain space, let me just briefly talk about the why of product management at GPC, right?
Yeah.
So GPC has traditionally been a very project-centric technology organization. What I mean by that is, since its inception, the focus has been, hey, let's start this project, let's finish this project, and let's move on to the next project, right? And that has served perfectly well for GPC over the last whatever number of years, let's say 90 plus years. Right?
90 plus, right?
So, but now as we are looking at our future for the next 15, called 20 years, one of the key things we've realized is we really have to invest heavily in our technology foundations. So we have some technologies that have been around for 20 plus years. We really need to revamp that. We really need to refresh all of that. We really need to figure out what our future technology products are going to look like, right? So as this investment is being brought into technology, where we need to make sure we build products that are persistent, that are not going to be like projects. We build something, we're done with it, and move away, right? So that's one of the primary reasons we are thinking about this very differently for the next 10, 15 years from a technology standpoint, right? We want to build persistent products. We want to build teams around those persistent products. We want to build these products to be able to serve the customer, so we solve the right problems for what that product is meant to be doing. So with that in mind, we started on the journey for product management at GPC, I want to say about a year or so ago. So really, that's what's driving us to start organizing ourselves from a product standpoint. Now, as you can imagine, right, taking an organization from where it was to where it needs to be from a product thinking, that's not a 1 year thing. It is a long journey. And the way we are approaching this is it's a three-pronged approach, right? So the first thing, we are working on getting our team structure right, our organizational structure within the technology team right, to be able to support the product mindset. So that's number one. Number two is, in parallel, we're working on establishing the right methodologies that these product teams will be able to adopt, will be able to practice, and will be able to implement. So a lot of it revolves around agile practices and bringing in the best of agile for these teams to operate with. And then the third thing is, you have the methodology, you have the right team structure. Then the third thing we are focusing on is making sure we have the right training for our product managers. So making sure they're getting trained in the right concepts, right frameworks around these methodologies, right? And I think, Colette, I'll let you touch upon some of these frameworks subsequently. But what I do want to dive deeper into is the supply chain space and how we are organizing within supply chain. So all these products that have been around for a long time, what we saw is a lot of these products did the same thing across multiple business functions in many cases, right? So I'll give you an example. We ship product to our customers. We ship parcel products to our customers that can go from a supplier, that can go from a distribution center, that can go from a store. What we found is these technology teams were solving the same problem in two different ways when you're shipping the product, right? So what we said is, let's change that approach. let's figure out how we can build one product / one service that can support shipping products across anywhere in our supply chain, right? Whether you're shipping it from a store, whether you're shipping it from a distribution center, whether you're shipping it from a supplier. So I give that as an example because the next topic I'll touch on is what we call the domain-driven approach. So I mean, conceptually, a lot of the people probably already heard of domain-driven design in software, but we're adopting a similar approach to how we organize our products. And in the case of shipping, for example, that becomes a product that sits under a domain called supply chain. So all the products that relate to moving our parts across our supply chain or shipping the parts, all those products, technology products that support that business function, reside under a domain called supply chain, or shipping specifically under supply chain, right? So that's just an example. We have similar products sitting across our commerce portfolio. We have similar products sitting in our merchandising portfolio. So we're adopting this domain concept to organize our products better so that we don't have duplicative capabilities across the company from a technology standpoint. And at the same time, we are able to focus that product team to solve a problem that is very specific to what that product is supposed to be doing. So that's at very high level. Would be happy to get into more details through the conversation.
Great. So I think that's a good high level explanation. So, and that change is causing some changes to how you're organizing the whole team too.
Yeah.
Right. You want to talk a little bit about that for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, right, at a high level, the way we are organizing our technology teams is having different portfolios be at the highest level of the hierarchy. So we have a portfolio called supply chain. We have a portfolio called commerce, portfolio called merchandising, and so on. Within these portfolios, we have certain domains that belong to that portfolio. So, for example, I'll talk about supply chain a little bit. Think about supply chain. Product moves from our suppliers to our customers, and along the way, it goes through our distribution centers. It may go through multiple distribution centers. It goes through our stores. Eventually, ends up where it's meant to be for the customers, right? Along the way, there are several different technology components that are serving the function for moving the product, right? So there is a system that manages all the transportation. There is a system that manages how the product moves through a distribution center. There is a system that manages how we decide how much inventory to carry, where to carry that, and when to replenish that inventory, right? So all of these functions are sort of combined, consolidated under a domain. So for everything that happens within the four walls of a distribution center, that's our warehousing domain. Everything that relates to moving the product from the supplier to our DCs or from our DCs to the stores, we're calling that our transportation domain. And within each domain, we have several products that serve the function for that domain. So, for example, within the warehousing domain, we have a product that relates to the warehouse management capabilities, right? How do you get the product into the building? How do you put away the product into the shelves and so on? Then there is a product for let's say managing the labor efficiency. How do you track the labor productivity within the four walls of a DC, right? So these individual products roll up to that domain. And then our teams are formed for each of these products. And then the idea is these teams are persistent. So 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we would still have a warehouse management team that's continuing to innovate, that's continuing to support that product. And it's so we're going away from a project mentality and then going more towards a persistent product that's going to serve us for the next 10 to 15 years at least.
Right. Okay. And that led you. We were talking a little bit about domain-driven practices a moment ago as well, kind of before everybody got on, and we're talking about the different domains of technology that you have. How does that lead in? Is that the beginning and end of the domain-driven practices, or are you bringing additional training and thinking into those different domains or different varieties into those domains?
Yeah, so the first step for us was to organize the teams so that we are supporting this domain-driven approach, right? So over the last year or so, we have been doing that, just that, making sure that our teams are organized, our products are organized under the right domains, and so on. Now, as we look at the future roadmaps for a lot of these products, the the idea of domain-driven design for a software product will be primarily the focus, right? Some of these products we're building in-house, some of these we're using off the shelf, but regardless, that product should be serving a function that only that product is supposed to do, right? And we're drawing the boundaries based on the business context, drawing the boundaries based on the business function. So as we move forward in this journey, we envision adopting a lot of these domain-driven practices, even in our software design, software implementations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, Colette, and those evolutions have been kind of the driver for a lot of changes and new practices in how you're actually doing product management. So we've talked about the domain, we've talked about the scope of the work that you're doing. Let's talk a little bit about how that's actually making its way into the product management practices as you're kind of redefining and relaunching those practices within Genuine Parts, and some of the things that are happening there.
Yeah, sure. So obviously with this new change and introducing the domain, we have, as a product organization, firstly, we kind of have to really maybe establish ourselves as a product organization. And so Kedar and team has been doing a really good job over the last year or so to bring that out. And so one of the things that we're being challenged and taught is a new operating model. And I would say among what we would normally do as product, right? Where we identify the problem, we know who our customer is. We have those obviously, right? Foundational. But I would say two key things that stand out that we are challenged moving forward to both think about as well as communicate is around outcomes. Mm-hmm. What is the outcomes to these problems? Making sure we understand what those are, and also making sure that we have some matrix around that, right? So we can measure those and we can communicate that measurement. So as an organization and the domain that we're under or the specific portfolio that we're focusing on, we're kind of being really focused on our data-driven success metrics.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then it moves into a few other things. So, one example of that is our roadmaps. So, as you can only assume, from moving from project to product, we had a lot of roadmaps. We had a lot of variations of roadmaps, and depending on the area and the need, it kind of explained different things. But I think as part of this new operating system and our practice, we are being encouraged to move towards outcome-based roadmaps. And so that gives us not as much emphasis on the when, but what are our objectives over time, right? What are the opportunities under those objectives, and how are we continuously measuring those and validating those, right? And so it's a continuous opportunity, focusing on some metrics. How well is that done? Revisit, iterate, and let's continue. So I think those are very big for us at GPC, and it's a great challenge for us as product to be able to start really thinking that way, and most of all, communicating that to all of our stakeholders.
Yeah, sharing that message across the organization and shifting that thinking is one of the fundamental challenges that product managers everywhere are facing. And so you brought some training and some tools and some frameworks into play to help make that happen. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that are helping you be successful in that?
Yeah, and so that's just one example of our tools, and that came out of a workshop that we did, right? So there were some pilot groups initially that that helped to fine tune what we needed to focus on. But what we now initially what we had was a product workshop to kind of introduce all of the product people across GPC to this new way of working. And so that was a great session. We obviously had a mix of people who was used to it, who was adapting to it. So it was all great working together. And really that sense of we are moving in this direction, right? From the top down. And so now we also, on top of that, have a regular community of practice that we've begun. And in that, we've taken really what's in the workshop, and we kind of, similar to product coffee, really, Brett, for those who are aware of it, we'll take one area and we'll really focus in each community of practice. So that's why you said it sounds familiar, right? So yeah, we just dive in more so that each of us in our day-to-day get a little bit more comfortable about what is that we're doing. Okay, an outcome roadmap. How do we do that in our situation? How does that work for our group? How do we tangibly share that? Amongst many other topics. So that's been going well so far. And actually what's actually very cool about that also is that we're being encouraged to co-lead that as well. So people are taking turns to just share what they've done so far, get feedback on it from the community to see how we could do it better, as well as other people can learn to adopt it.
That's great. One of the best ways to learn a thing is to teach a thing. So as you're gaining those experiences and then sharing them out with your peers, that really creates that sense of community, as well as kind of burns in that knowledge that you're working through. So that's a pretty
absolutely
exciting evolution. And you talked about the product day a little bit. I think you just kind of touched on that a little bit, where we kind of brought some folks in and really started to share a little bit more about what we were doing. What were some of the results of that?
Oh, yeah. So actually, before I was talking about an internal kind of training workshop, but since you mentioned product day, what we did as well was we did create, basically it was considered like a mini expo. And so all of the product teams basically had the opportunity, had their own booths, and had the opportunity to show what they're working on. And what they plan to do coming into the new year. And so it was very cool. We even have in GPC, we're a myriad of some companies. So we have we had even our area in Poland. We have a Poland team that we work directly with. We have a partner company called Motion that's actually in Alabama, and they came down. So we truly were showing very strong who our product organization is. And it was very cool to basically show our other IT stakeholders, as well as our business stakeholders and executives, what exactly we have. I think it was successful on two counts. One, to be able to show all of the stakeholders what we have, but also more importantly, for the product organization to know what each other has, right? So we can start having some conversations as we're moving to that domain. Hey, we are doing this area right now, so maybe you needed it, and then now we have it for you. So let's talk and let's collaborate. How are we going to put that on our roadmap so you can now adopt that, right? And move towards that domain practice, but still give a great customer experience.
And just to add to that, right? One of the main objectives here was to create awareness of product within GPC, right? Because it's a relatively new practice. People are not really familiar with what product does, honestly, what are the different products in our organization as well. So it creates that awareness. It kind of gets people out of their comfort zone a little bit to go talk to other people about what their product really does, and then in the same setting also meet other product teams and understand what their roadmaps are. And most importantly, you still want to keep the customer at the core of all of this, and then you sort of map your journey across all these products for that customer. Those are some of the other objectives, and I think those were achieved through this product day.
Well, that's key is so you're seeing success, you're seeing people starting to get the message, starting to change some perspectives and drive some different conversations inside the organization.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's leading you to a need to expand on the team too, right? One of the things we've been talking about a lot at Product Coffee, and we talked about with Brooke a couple of weeks ago pretty heavily, is just the as Kedar, as you talked about the number of opportunities and the number of initiatives that you have on the backlog, so to speak. You're needing product people to come in to make those a reality and to bring these practices to a wider footprint within the organization. So what are some of the types of things that you're looking to bring into the organization to help that in the last couple of minutes that we've got here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be quick here, and then I'll let Colette also speak to her areas too. So as we grow, as we figure out how our journey looks like for the next call it 10, 15 years, right? We're building these core product teams, and that's creating more opportunities. Specifically within supply chain, I can speak to some of the key opportunities. We're looking for people that love problem solving, looking for people who are curious to learn a new domain, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And understand what goes into solving a problem too, right? So having that mindset and is critical. And then the roles that we are looking to fill revolve around things like our distribution domain. How do you solve problems that occur within the four walls around getting the product in, tracking the product, and so on? What kind of problems can you quantify in that, right? So that's one role. Another similar role related to our inventory tracking, making sure we have the right problems defined around inventory optimization within our supply chain, and then go solve those problems working with these engineering teams, right? So those are a couple of areas I want to highlight within supply chain.
Excellent. So, and we've got I just threw up here on the screen for those of you who are watching a QR code, and you can jump in and take a look at some of the open roles that Genuine Parts has available. And one of the really cool things that we're doing, we're going to see both Kedar and Colette. You're going to be at Product Camp here in Atlanta on September 29th. Genuine Parts is also a sponsor of that event. We're going to have you at the Georgia Aquarium, where we're going to hang out with the fishes and talk product stuff all Friday long. And you guys are going to have a table where you're going to get to connect with people. But then on October 5th, we've also got another event coming up that's pretty exciting. We're doing a big hiring event. And just real quickly, so you've got open positions that you're trying to fill, and you're going to do an on-site event at Genuine Parts with Product Coffee to bring people in to meet the executive teams, meet the leadership teams, meet the hiring managers, meet people from Genuine Parts Company, learn about these opportunities, and do on-site interviews all day long, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, in my mind, the best way for someone who's looking for opportunities to learn about what Genuine Parts Company has to offer. You get to talk to people that are actually going to be filling these roles. You get to talk to people that are living this day in, day out, right? So in my mind, that's the best way to know more about what the opportunities are.
Absolutely. So if you guys scan that QR code, you'll be able to, for all you out there watching us on YouTube, we had some problems with the LinkedIn live portion today. We got some folks troubleshooting that, but hopefully everybody made it over to YouTube or Facebook to catch this. But if you scan that QR code, I see quite a few people are scanning it right now, so that's fantastic. And feel free to drop any comments right here in the chat wherever you're watching from. We'll love to interact with you. But on October 5th, that hiring event's coming up at Genuine Parts. Come meet Kedar and Colette and Brooke and some of the other folks, and Shale and Shanice. Come meet them at the aquarium on September 29th. You can head over to Product Camp Atlanta to register for that. We've actually got a short code there for you as well. If you look at the bottom of your screen, pcamp.it/register, pcampit/register. We'll take you to the registration page for Product Camp. It is filling up. We've only got about 93 seats left when I checked before this live stream started. We have a capacity of 300. We're at over almost 210 registrations so far. Things going to sell out. If you'd like to join us, register for that and come join us. And we will look forward to seeing everybody there, both at Product Camp and at Genuine Parts on the 5th as well. I want to thank you both for being here. This is really cool to hear what you're doing. People have been through, these transitions in their own careers. They've been through them in their own companies. They've seen them happen in other companies. And the type of digital transformation that Genuine Parts is going through right now is really a rare opportunity for a lot of people in this product management career to be truly pivotal to changing the culture and how an entire classic, well-known, well-loved and respected brand changes their operations and their view into creating value. So I really hope a lot of people will reach out and connect with you guys and join you at Genuine Parts. And thank you for being here and telling us what you're doing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a pleasure, and happy to share more information through one of these events. But thanks for the invite also, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
My absolute pleasure. We'll come up with some cookies for you, Colette.
Yes.
Okay. And just for those, so thanks. I know you guys have some meetings to go to, so I'm going to let you go, and I will throw up here on the screen. I've got a little bit of a flyer that will tell folks about the event that you're having at Genuine Parts on October 5th. Hopefully you can read all that, but same QR code right there on the flyer as well. That'll take you over to the Genuine Parts site where you can drop in your own application, submit your information, and get the invitation to that hiring event on October 5th. So I want to thank everybody for joining us on this. Give us some feedback at Product Coffee as well. Let us know how you like these. What are some other topics you'd like us to drop on you just before lunch? We would love to hear your feedback. Reach out to us at info@productcoffee.com or just hit the website productcoffee.com. And we'll look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.